and welcome back to Spirit Mom. Today in Spirit School, we're going to discuss why religions have always had an emphasis on keeping ourselves pure. So yesterday we discussed the I can'ts and all the different ways, or some of the ways that this could come about in your life. The I can'ts and how it can come from negative and sometimes demonic forces, as well as our own subconscious. They work together quite nicely to sabotage us, as well. There's also the saboteur archetype that we all have. So there is a bunch of negative things being juggled from ourselves and from outside forces that get allowed in with our own negative behavior. So this is why religions have always had a strong push towards purity. Now, if the majority of mainstream religions were to be taken in together and their essences juiced and a story be unfolded of what we're probably looking at here. So I'm not using one religion. We're gonna take the average of what we hear from all the different ones. Now, as the stories go, there isn't necessarily the hell that we hear of that Catholicism basically made up because it's not in the Bible, but there is purgatory. Purgatory does seem to be extremely real. So after we die, we're said to go into a review of this life where, if truth be told and believed in what we hear, it is we're sitting and we're watching our lives unfold, and we have to watch how it would have gone differently if we had to come at it from a place of love. Now, this does seem kind of like a place of hell, but also it's a purgatory because it's a waiting game. And we can talk for years and days and hours and forever on how that would actually look. But we can pretty much sum it up on, if we have a better life now, we're going to have a better afterlife, right? If we had that perfect, pure life, the things that like the Essenes and the Gnostics and the Rosicrucians aim towards is that pure, completely, and there's lots of religions, those are just to name a few, that want that pure thing, so they go right into heaven, right? To be 100%, you go right into heaven. But even if you don't punch your ticket to heaven, the better your life is, the better your next life will be. The shorter time you're in purgatory, the faster you level up and level up and level up. So eventually the goal is some type of heaven, like the next realm, the next level of existence. And so, then there's arguments to be made of, we're making Earth that, and maybe it's all of it, right? There's trillions and trillions of existing souls, so maybe some want to stay on Earth and watch this story play out, but maybe others want to leave. Like, I've heard the story of the Wanderer, I think I'm one of them, that the star seeds, the star children that came down to help humanity raise up their vibration so that humanity, Earth, could be a better place, but they went and made mistakes, and now they're trapped on Earth because they've created karmic patterns. They've created karma that they need to work off. So let's bring this back. Yesterday we talked about I can'ts. Today it's about what actually gets in our way, because we're going to say I can't, all right? I think you always can. However, the difficulty level does get increased, right? When we put things in our own path. So, and the day before yesterday, I think we talked about the 7 deadly sins. So let's combine those together, okay? When we sin, we make our life harder because we are opening vortexes, opening channels for negative entities to enter us. Not only that, we are creating neuron pathways in our own brain, in our own subconscious, in our own conscious of negativity. And the two things work together beautifully. So our own subconscious the more bad we do, the more bad our own subconscious gets. So if this sounds confusing, if you watched my origin story, I talked about how when I was growing up, I was a very good kid, but my parents caused wounds, right? Parents do that, it's okay. But they caused these wounds and they caused this negative feedback. They caused me to eventually adopt a very poor me circumstance as I grew up, and I saw how my friends, because I stayed a good kid, so I didn't have bad friends. I had good friends, like came from good families, I mean. But it made me bitter because I'm like, why did you get good parents and I didn't? Like, why do you have money and I don't? Why? And a poor me attitude came out of it. So what was happening there? Now that was my own fault. Now I was creating my own negative neuron pathways in my own subconscious, firing and wiring together, thoughts fire together and make actions and behaviors, and you do things once, twice, all of a sudden you're creating habits which demonic forces will jump right on, and they'll start, and they're always in there, even if you're a good person, whispering ideas, but you're not actually feeding them until you start doing it. And that's okay. There's a lot of things that say that's just them, they just eat things, we eat cows, we don't need to be scared of them, that's just their job, that's what they do. So this isn't about, oh no, be weird. It's just to be aware though. Like, let's not beware, let's be aware, right? Does that make sense? We need to be aware of our own behavior, of our own thoughts, and pay attention and start to learn, is that me thinking? It's probably not. Your higher self doesn't really think. When you get pings from the higher self, it's not in that chitter chatter thoughts. It's like an instant urge to, I'm gonna go do this now, and you don't even know why. It's not a, maybe we should do that later, or maybe, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't have even words. It'll kind of just throw down a picture that you act upon. But you need to get yourself into a meditative space. You need to start calming down before those really come in at a higher rate, where it's actually starting to level up your life, which is great. But when you're in a bad place, I know this from experience, you get those ideas too, with the demonic forces, the bad subconscious, the shadow self, the saboteur, the victim archetypes. All these things are there waiting to throw away the higher self's ideas. They're sitting there creating your living hell. Hell is here on earth if you get yourself in that negative space. You don't want to get to that place where things are actually getting thrown in your way. And I've had small degrees of that where, like, I think I mentioned before how I used to lose things, and it was like, it felt like something had taken it and hidden it, and something was hiding it in my mind, hiding where it was to cause me to freak out and be like, oh my God, hysterical. But that's not even close to what it's like if you got to the addict level. And the addict is its own archetype. And having horrible things like that, strong demonic forces. Mentioning, separate subject, lust. Lust is a dangerous one, a dangerous demonic forces to have come after you because of the shame and the guilt that those demonic forces will open up. Because shame, and actually now I see why that thought came to me, that would go right with the addict, because an addict would have nothing but shame and guilt. Because think about what you're doing to yourself, you're killing yourself, there'd be nothing but shame and guilt. It'd be the same as like naughty business, where like that was fun for 2 seconds, but now all of a sudden you have a flood of shame and guilt, right? And then lust can go into like hookers and, you know, wasting money on that kind of stuff, where just like drugs go into the drugs. So it's just these perpetual demonic forces, and next thing you know, you're in, oh, even gluttony, right? You're wasting money on food and stuff. Like, these are patterns and cycles that you can get trapped in. So this is why, at the point of the episode, religions preach that you should be pure. And you're like, oh, that's boring. Because it's always a stairway, you know, stairway to heaven. Well, there's a stairway to hell too. And it starts with one lie. I'm not joking. It starts with one mistake that you didn't own up for. It starts with one egoic trip. It starts with one anger left unchecked. And then these steps get more and more and more and more. We all have something we're meant to do. But you can't find that thing if you're stuck in the sins, if you're stuck in the dumps. Everybody can jump out of that place. And it starts by acknowledging that you were consumed by darkness, and by taking the boring religions and start to listen just a little. They had a reason why we should be good, and it wasn't, yes, humans took advantage of religions, but God didn't. That's not God's fault. We have been told to be good for a reason. If you stepped yourself into hell, I have been almost there. For me, I was there. I mean, I'm not going to belittle actual addicts and people stuck in really bad situations. For me, I was in hell. I wanted to die. So like that was as bad. Luckily, like I said before, I'm fragile. So luckily that was my hell, and I couldn't actually get any lower because that was as low as I was willing to go. So maybe the people that become super addicts, they're technically stronger than me because I don't have it in me to go that low. And I'm not putting them down. I'm putting them up. So if you were that strong to be able to handle life that bad, then that just means you're that strong and you could make your life that much better. You know, you can rise above it. You can rise above anything. You just have to know it's not your fault. Things are taking advantage of your situation. Your brain is wired the wrong way, but that's not an insult, because Joe Dispenza, I recommend getting to know him, talks about how you can fire and rewire the right way. Like, we can change the firing and the rewiring for good no matter what your age is. Yes, the older you get, the harder it gets, but that doesn't matter. You can change your thinking one behavior at a time. So start listening to what the religion said, of what they said was good and bad, because they pick your religion. I like Jesus and Buddha, like Kabbalah, like Kabbalistic. That's great. That's the God, like Yahweh. That's the God. So that's like Jesus was probably into that stuff, because that's Jewish mysticism. And Hermetic philosophies like Thoth, but he's not actually a god. He's just a smart guy that came down, and he would seem like a god to us, and taught a lot of good things. Like, there's so many things you can turn to, because the first thing in AA, not that I've officially been, but I have actually studied it. Russell Brand has a book on it. Not that counts, but he told me all about it. And one of the steps is, and I think we all know this one, is giving yourself over to a higher power. And the main reason for that is to supersede your ego, right? Because we have to take that ego out of the driver's seat to give our higher self a chance to get in that seat. So good luck to all of you out there. I believe you can do this. You have it in you. The power is within you to make your own life better. You can do it. Start walking your better path today. I believe in you. Goodbye for now, Spirit Mind.